Child injured in brutal coyote attack in LA. Authorities warn residents to stay alert. A shocking and terrifying incident unfolded in Los Angeles when a wild coyote attacked a 4-year-old boy in his own driveway, highlighting growing concerns about human wildlife encounters in residential neighborhoods. Now we take a deeper look and break down this entire story on the AI podcast.
Usually when you step out of your front door in the morning, there's like an unwritten script for how your day is going to begin.
Right, yeah, the whole morning routine.
Exactly. You grab your keys, you check your phone, maybe you wrangle a kid or two toward the car, and there's this expectation of absolute safety in that routine. You are in your zone.
Oh, totally. You don't even think about it.
Right. But on a random Tuesday in the Los Angeles suburb of Carson, that script was just violently torn to pieces. We're looking at reports of a wild coyote lunging at a family while they were, simply unloading their SUV in their own driveway. It aggressively bit a 4-year-old boy.
I mean, that is just terrifying.
It really is. So our goal today is to examine how the line between our constructed urban landscape and the untamed wild is blurring, and what you need to understand about predator behavior to stay safe.
Okay, let's unpack this because we really need to contrast the setting with what actually happened.
Yeah, that's the core of it, really. Picture this family just unloading their vehicle. It's a mundane chore. And suddenly this child suffers puncture wounds to his leg and torso.
Wow.
Yeah. Thankfully, officials confirmed the injuries were non-life-threatening. But it still required immediate transport to a nearby hospital. The boy's grandmother spoke to local reporters, and her warning to other families was incredibly stark. She kept emphasizing that it only takes a split second.
What's fascinating here is the psychological shock of that specific setting. We build suburban environments specifically to insulate ourselves from the wild.
Right, like treating our driveways like an extension of our living rooms.
Exactly. A guaranteed safe zone. We pave the ground, we put up fences, we install streetlights. When that insulation fails, it shatters an illusion that you rely on every single day to navigate your life without constant anxiety.
So is our modern reliance on these invisible urban boundaries actually making us more vulnerable to these split-second attacks?
I mean, biologically speaking, yes. That speed that the grandmother mentioned, that is the crucial takeaway for anyone listening when it comes to situational awareness. Because you feel safe in a driveway, your guard is just completely down.
Yeah, you're not exactly looking over your shoulder while grabbing grocery bags.
Right. Your brain literally filters out potential threats. If you are hiking in a dense forest or walking near a canyon edge at dusk, your reticular activating system, that's the part of your brain that filters sensory information, it's naturally on high alert.
You're listening for rustling leaves, right?
Exactly. You scan the tree line. But unloading groceries on a Tuesday morning, your brain is focused on schedules, backpacks, maybe getting a cup of coffee.
You're in a completely different mental gear. Domestic mode, not survival mode.
Exactly. But a coyote is a highly opportunistic predator, and it is operating entirely in survival mode 24/7. The suddenness of the attack exploits that massive gap between those two mental states.
It's relying on the element of surprise.
Yes, against a target that isn't expecting to defend itself on a paved surface. We operate under this assumption that a paved driveway is inherently human territory. But to a wild animal, pavement is just another type of ground.
That is such a chilling way to look at it. And, if this were just a random isolated stroke of bad luck, like a wrong place, wrong time scenario where an animal wandered out of the brush and got spooked, that would be scary enough.
Yeah, an accident.
Right. But here's where it gets really interesting. This wasn't just a random encounter. The California Department of Fish and Wildlife got involved, and they used DNA evidence to link this exact same coyote to at least one other recent attack in Carson.
Wait, DNA evidence?
Yeah, full forensic tracking. And investigations are underway into other encounters, too, including another child in Carson and a separate case in nearby Gardena.
Wow. That forensic detail fundamentally shifts how we have to understand this event.
It really does.
Yeah.
Wildlife officers are now coordinating with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department to actively comb neighborhoods. They're trying to safely capture this specific animal. We have DNA evidence, interagency coordination, neighborhood sweeps.
It's massive.
We are essentially treating this wild animal investigation like a true crime serial offender case. So my question is, how does a single animal's behavior escalate to the point of triggering a multi-agency manhunt?
Well, it moves the incident from an unfortunate accident to a targeted pattern. It's a really common, almost romanticized assumption that these animals are just desperate victims of urban sprawl.
Right, like they're just confused and starving because we paved over their homes.
Exactly. But the DNA linkage proves something entirely different, both biologically and behaviorally. See, displacement causes panic. A displaced, terrified animal tries to hide. If it attacks, it does so defensively because it feels cornered.
Ah, okay. That makes sense.
But when forensic evidence links the same animal to multiple targeted, unprovoked attacks on humans, and specifically small children in similar domestic settings, it proves this is calculated, learned behavior.
So the animal isn't lost. It knows exactly where it is.
It is exactly where it wants to be. The coyote has learned that human environments and human beings represent either a resource or a territory it can dominate without consequence.
Man. So it's not a terrified animal lashing out.
No, not at all. It's an animal that has successfully adapted to view our neighborhoods as its primary hunting ground. Each time it enters a neighborhood and doesn't face a severe negative consequence or worse, manages to successfully execute an attack. That behavioral pathway is neurologically reinforced.
It's testing the fences, finding out there's no electricity.
That's a great way to put it. It becomes bolder. And that is exactly why the state triggers a multi-agency manhunt. An animal that crosses that behavioral threshold into repeated, unprovoked aggression toward humans. It can't be rehabilitated with a loud noise or a scare tactic.
Right, it's too late for that.
Way too late. It represents an immediate, escalating threat to public safety. You need definitive intervention to capture it before that learned behavior results in a real tragedy.
So, state wildlife officials actually provided a specific explanation for how a wild animal gets to that point of absolute boldness in the first place.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they point the finger directly at the environment we've created. They warn that, quote, increasing human familiarity is the exact thing leading to these dangerous situations.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, coyotes have been a common sight in Southern California for a long time. They roam near homes, parks, schools. So what does this all mean? It feels like we treat urban wildlife as background extras in the movie of our lives, forgetting that they are actual wild predators.
Yeah, people just sort of tune them out.
Are we essentially loving or ignoring them into becoming dangerous?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you're touching on a fascinating concept in biology known as synanthropy.
Synanthropy.
Yeah. Synanthropes are wild animals that actually benefit from living near humans and artificially created environments. We aren't just looking at an animal that tolerates our presence. We are looking at a species that is rapidly evolving its behaviors to exploit our specific urban ecosystems.
Wow. So they aren't surviving in spite of us, they're thriving because of us.
Exactly. Look at how they navigate our world. Urban coyotes have learned to use storm drains to travel undetected. They literally look both ways before crossing streets to avoid traffic.
Wait, really? They look both ways.
They do. They have learned our schedules, knowing exactly when trash day is or when residents typically walk their small dogs. They are constantly analyzing us.
That's wild.
And the problem is, we have this deep-seated desire to feel connected to nature, or we just habituate to its presence. You see a coyote trotting near a park, and because it isn't actively doing anything threatening in that exact second, you ignore it.
Or someone thinks it's beautiful and takes out their phone to record a video for social media.
Exactly. And meanwhile, the animal is taking notes while we are taking videos.
We are actively teaching them that the big two-legged creatures with the glowing rectangles aren't a threat.
Right. When wild animals lose their natural fear of urban environments and humans, their behavior undergoes a very predictable transition. It starts as passive coexistence. They're just passing through at night, keeping their distance.
Sure, just shadows in the background.
But as they become more familiar with the sights, the sounds, and the smells of humanity without experiencing any negative reinforcement, that passive coexistence shifts. It shifts into unusual boldness. Familiarity strips away the invisible barrier of fear.
And once that barrier is gone, they begin to view our spaces as their spaces.
Exactly.
So the driveway is no longer a human zone to be avoided. It's simply a concrete clearing where they can hunt or forage. I mean, the root cause of the Carson attack isn't just that a coyote wandered out of the brush one morning. It is the cumulative effect of months, maybe years, of coyotes learning that human proximity does not equal danger.
Fear is the natural boundary that keeps wild animals safe from us and us safe from them. By not maintaining that healthy boundary of fear, by passively watching them walk through our yards, we inadvertently create the exact conditions that lead to these split-second attacks.
It's a buildup.
Yeah. Aggression is the inevitable next step once fear is eliminated.
Okay, that brings us to the actionable part of this deep dive. Now that we understand the horrifying suddenness of how these attacks happen, the DNA tracking, and the biological mechanism of human familiarity, what do you actually do about it? How do you reclaim your space?
Right, the practical steps.
Yeah, because officials strongly advise a few urgent precautions. Keep children and pets under close supervision. Secure all trash bins, absolutely never leave set food outdoors, and immediately report any unusually bold or aggressive wildlife behavior.
All crucial.
But I have to challenge this, to be honest.
Okay, go for it.
Looking at this list, it feels completely disproportionate to the threat we just discussed. We are talking about a DNA-tracked predator launching a split-second attack in a driveway, right? Triggering a multi-agency manhunt.
Yeah, it's intense.
And the advice for the public is essentially, do your chores. Like taking out the trash, bringing in the dog's bowl. How do these simple acts actually prevent an aggressive coyote from lunging?
It honestly feels like telling someone to use a squirt gun against a house fire.
I totally get why you'd say that. It does sound disproportionate on the surface. You have a massive manhunt on one side and securing a plastic lid on the other.
Right.
But to understand why these simple chores are actually the most effective line of defense, you have to understand a concept called energy economics.
Okay, break that down for it. What is energy economics in the context of an urban predator?
So wild animals are fundamentally driven by a constant life or death calculation. It's calories expended versus calories gained, weighed against the risk of injury.
They will always go where the calories are easiest. Think about what it takes for a coyote to hunt in a natural environment. Chasing down a jackrabbit requires a massive expenditure of energy.
Right, sprinting, dodging.
Yeah, and there is a really high probability the hunt will fail. Even worse, the coyote risks physical injury. A kicked eye or a twisted leg from a bad step can literally be a death sentence in the wild.
The cost of doing business in the wild is incredibly high.
Exactly. Now compare that to a bowl of pet food left on a back porch, or an overflowing unsecured trash bin. That is a caloric jackpot.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It offers high-density nutrition with zero energy expenditure and zero physical risk. The success rate is 100%.
It's like leaving $20 bills on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
You can't be surprised when people start loitering on your block.
That is a perfect analogy. By leaving food out, you are literally funding their habituation. You draw the animal into the human environment, altering its natural foraging patterns.
Okay, I see where this is going.
When you bring the dog bowl inside, when you secure the trash with a heavy lid, you are removing the attractants. You change the economic calculation for the animal.
You make it unprofitable.
Yes. If a neighborhood yields no easy calories, the animal's internal algorithm registers that the territory operates at a caloric deficit. It will eventually move on to areas where foraging is more productive.
So you are saying these basic chores are actually a form of active ecosystem management.
Absolutely.
You are manipulating the energy economics of your own property to make it unprofitable for a predator to be there.
Yes, and more than that, by managing these attractants and reporting bold behavior the very moment you see it, you are actively reestablishing the necessary boundaries between human habitats and wild animals.
It isn't just about cleaning up.
No, not at all. Every time you secure a lid, you are casting a vote for keeping the wild. You are preventing the very first step of habituation that eventually leads to a coyote feeling comfortable enough to walk up a driveway in broad daylight.
You know, the authorities are handling the immediate crisis of the repeat offender. They have the DNA profiles, they have the sheriff's department coordinating sweeps. But the community, the people listening right now, are the only ones who can prevent the next generation of coyotes from learning those same dangerous behaviors.
Spot on. The state can remove a problematic animal, but only the residents can remove the environment that created it. Those mundane chores disrupt the biological programming of the predator.
That completely reframes the whole idea of backyard maintenance.
Yeah.
You aren't just taking out the garbage, you are putting the invisible fence back up.
Precisely.
Well, let's bring all of this together for you. We started this deep dive with a really unsettling realization that your driveway, the place you unload your groceries and put your kids in their car seats, is not the impenetrable safe zone we all want to believe it is.
No, it really isn't.
We unpack the reality that these split-second attacks are often not isolated incidents, but part of a calculated, learned pattern of behavior. A pattern so severe it requires wildlife forensics, DNA tracking, and a coordinated manhunt to stop.
Yeah, a true escalation.
And we explored how urban coyotes operate as synanthropes, rapidly adapting to exploit our neighborhoods while we passively watch them. And finally, we discovered that the key to stopping this cycle isn't just relying on wildlife officers, but understanding the energy economics of urban predators. The simple, everyday actions you take to secure your space actively break the dangerous cycle of human familiarity.
This raises an important question to leave you with, looking at everything we've covered today. If our passive tolerance that increasing human familiarity is the root cause of these terrifying driveway attacks, we have to look in the mirror a bit.
Yeah.
Is our modern desire to peacefully coexist with urban wildlife, to just watch them walk through our neighborhoods without intervening, actually the very thing that puts both us and the animals in the greatest danger?
Man, it is a fascinating paradox to chew on the next time you see a wild animal wandering a little too close to home. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Stay curious, and above all, stay vigilant out there.
Okay, one question for you. What factors might be contributing to the increasing number of aggressive coyote attacks in residential areas like Los Angeles? And how can authorities and residents work together to reduce these dangerous human-wildlife interactions? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.